Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video. And this is something that has been on my mind ever since I made the CM pruning opinions for version 2.6, which has been out since this morning as of the time of this recording. Specifically, I am pertaining to Acheron. I can't help but remember the impact where Acheron was first released, and then we had Jingliu back to back, kind of with Acheron. And it's kind of been bugging my mind a little bit, so I'm just gonna be talking. Leave your comments down below. This is not a objective truth, objective fact, but just some of like, my personal takes so far. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! Yep, it's time. Our first ever Acheron rerun. Now, as you guys would have seen from the rerun review video, basically CN, okay, not exactly just CN, but essentially if you don't have a specific setup to get a E2S1 Acheron aside with Jiao and Sparkle, they believe that Acheron has very little pool value for old players, especially if you already have access to a lot of our version 2 DPS such as Fei Xiao or Yunli, or even like Acheron, not Acheron, Firefly, or like the Boot Hero, like all these version 2 DPSs that can kind of hold their weight, right? If you're a new player, then I believe that Acheron still have a very good value for a new player that just started out in Honkai Starbucks. You need a good solid DPS, and I think that starting out in version 2.6 is going to be a very good time to start before we transition into Sunday and Fugue, which I have no idea what they're doing, right? Now, I cannot help but remember the times. And it wasn't even that long ago that Jingliu, right, we even made a video about how Jingliu, quote unquote, fell off and that kind of stuff. Jingliu was like DS plus for like pretty much everything except for maybe pure friction. And now she's literally in the same tier as Jingyuan for some of the modes. And I cannot help but feel that we may or may not see history repeating itself for Acheron, because at the end of the day, Acheron is going to be a DPS, right? If you have been playing since day one of Honkai Starbucks, generally speaking, across the endgame contents, there has only been one constant. That's your supports. Generally speaking, your supports are almost more or less always going to be the constants that you kind of just slot into all of your teams, right? If you're running specific setups, if you're going to be running anything like hyper carry, follow-up, DOT, whatever, the supports are more or less consistent. Sustains to a certain extent, yes, as well, but I would say they are less integral to the overall team building. Like, for example, if you're running a follow-up team comp without adventuring, it's not the end of the world if you, for example, run Gallagher with Quick Protocol instead of it onto Bubbin. Or if you were to run like a DOT team with Run May, Kafka, and Black Swan, it is not the end of the world if you don't have Hue, right? You could honestly run any of the things and it could technically still work. Whereas for DPS, a lot of things have changed since 1.0, right? With the release of Scylla, with the release of these old units, Scylla, Jingyuan, we have Blade, we have all the DOT team comps, there we have Doctor Ratio. So DPS, they are constantly moving, constantly changing. And it's almost like, it's quite literally just a few patches ago when Acheron was touted as the end-all be-all of DPS. And she was, right? She really was the end-all be-all when she first released. I don't think anyone questioned how absolutely diabolical Acheron was when she first launched. And then as time went by, this has no longer been the case, especially with like newer and newer powerhouses. For example, even Fei Xiao. I'm gonna keep it a buck. At E0S0 to an E0S0, I would say, not specifically Fei Xiao, but the archetype that follow-up unit has, it just outperforms. It simply does, right? And it is what it is. So going forward into the future, if we were to get a bigger development for new archetypes Or somehow if they make, I don't know, I really, really hope that MiHoYo can make DOT crit again. Like, the easiest way is just make DOT crit. We literally have the buff from Similar Universe that you can make DOT crit. If they can just do it, that's something to throw DOT in the bone. That would be great. But yeah. In the future for version 3.0, I'm not sure if Team Green and Fuke, they are considered 3.0 or 2.7. But I'll be quite interested to see what would be the next generation of DPS units. The next generation that will take over the peak, as it always has been, right? From version 1, Stella Qingyuan, first DPS banners, eventually came out Jingliu in Brutal Donate, right? They basically rechanged the scope of what DPS is like in the landscape. And then eventually version 2, Acheron came out, just shat on everybody all over the place. And then eventually, did I just say eventually? But, and then eventually we have Super Break, which just completely shed on crit DPS as a whole, whether it be in terms of investment required, whether it be in terms of flexibility, or even in terms of like number of idlers or light cones. It gets very obvious to see that if they wanted to, a brand new thing would just pop up just like this. So I guess my point that I'm trying to drive at is this. Nothing is truly, or especially for a DPS, right? Especially for a DPS, nothing is truly permanent. I would say to a certain extent, this can also even apply to supports. So for example, Sparkle, right? By no means Sparkle was like a shit unit. But if you want to talk about Super Break, you wouldn't run Sparkle with Super Break. And you wouldn't run Sparkle with follow-up attack, which you have Bubbin. So nothing truly is the end-all be-all for this kind of like landscapes. Because what truly is the bottom line is an entire archetype of units. So if we were to get, I think a lot of people have been saying the summon meta, right? Something that can buff summoned units. Or something that can, like, if we were to just go about this whole new landscape, then a lot of the current units that we have right now, they are probably not going to be as synergistic. So I'm just going to take, for example, let's just say summon meta becomes a thing. Robin can't buff summon units, right? This action very advanced. She can't bring up your summon units. She can't bring up Qingyuan's Lightning Lord. She can't bring up Topaz Nambi. The same thing as how Sparkle and Ramei, they can't do anything for summon units. So if summon units were truly to become a meta in the future, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of the current quote-unquote tier 0 units become less of a priority. Because that is how Super Break came about. You know what I'm saying? Super Break became a thing, not because of Ranmei, not because of even Harmony Trailblazer. It became a thing because MiHoYo basically just tied the endgame content to favor Super Break. So, one example, the 3 enemies, you guys remember the choir? 3 enemies sharing the exact same health pool, and if you break them more, you do like 1 billion damage. It was perfect for Firefly and Super Break as a whole. Or the dinosaurs, right? The dinosaur with the toughness bar, if you don't break the toughness bar, it just deals 0 damage. So at the snap of a finger, if MiHoYo wants to make something work, something will work. And nothing is truly tier 0 for life, right? And I would say that for Acheron, I wouldn't be too surprised if we were to get a situation where she becomes the Jingliu of 3.0. And that's a crazy thought to think. Acheron being a Jingliu, then what the fuck is gonna be happening to the rest of the cast? It is what it is. I really wouldn't be too surprised. Because what is Acheron gonna do, for example, if summon units becomes meta? Nothing. She can do nothing, just like how Super Break can do nothing. Just like how, okay, maybe follow-up could do something, right? Maybe Topaz could do something. Maybe Qingyuan could do something again. But generally speaking, if they want to, they can. And there's very little the existing cast of units in Honkai Starbucks can really do anything about it. So it brings me to the final elephant in the room. Will you consider this as power creep? Because I think we all kind of expect units to become less viable as time goes on. In a gacha game, no less. In a turn-based gacha game where you are basically tied to 2 teams. For every single endgame, you use 2 teams. And generally speaking, most of the time, to kind of improve the banner sales of the unit, they'll make some kind of buff that will benefit the on-banner unit. Sometimes even giving them whole mechanics that completely trivializes the content available. And if you don't have those mechanics, then you can go fuck yourself, right? So, as players who have went into Honkai Starbucks with the mentality of, I'm a meta pooler, I only pull for tier 0 units because they are gonna withstand the test of time. They are tier 0 now, there's no way they get POWERCREPT. It's very good. I personally would feel this is gonna be not that stable because no one knows what's gonna happen in the future if MiHoYo wants to introduce a brand new mechanic, summons, revives, turrets, like Hammerdinger turrets. Who knows, right? If they want to, they can. And holding on to the belief that we only pull for tier 0 units, it really doesn't matter a lot in the grand scheme of things. Because what's tier 0 in 1.0? What's tier 0 in 2.0? It probably won't be tier 0 anymore by 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. I don't know how is it like for Genshin Impact. I don't know how is it like for all these other gacha games. But I would say that for Honkai Starbucks specifically, aside from probably Bubbin, none of the units so far I can really say for certain it will stay forever. Because let's just be real, even Super Break, right? Even Super Break, if they want to fuck Super Break, it's quite easy. They just make it such that the weakness can't be broken, and we already have units such as Firefly Sam, or any discount mechanics where you can't break the Thunder's part, the Trotters. It's very, very straightforward. I say Bubbin is kind of the exception because at the end of the day, for a turn-based game, having the triple AV advance, it will probably take quite a bit to make this like no longer tier 0. Every other thing, I think it really just boils down to the whims of what MiHoYo wants to shape for the future of Honkai Impact. For Honkai Starbucks, right? So for Sunday, for Fugue, they are going to be like the next generation of supports. Either that or the bridge between the current generation of supports to the next generation of DPS. So I am very, very, very interested to see how both of them will shape the landscape of Honkai Starbucks. Will they be an existing upgrade to a current team comp? Will they open up brand new team comps? And how will the landscape develop? Because at the end of the day, you can only use 2 teams, right? Unfortunately, you can't use 3 teams. So as long as there's 2 different teams that are strictly better, you will find yourself very little reasons to use a 3rd team. Like, why would I use DOT when I can use Super Break and follow up? Why would I run Imbibitor Lune at E0 when I can run Acheron at E0, right? So because of this, competition is extremely fierce. And don't be too, I guess, upset or locked in to a specific unit like Acheron, like Jingliu, or even Fei Xiao next time in the future if something new comes along in a gacha turn-based game, right? So that is gonna be my yep. Leave your comments down below. These are my thoughts going into the new patch version. Word of the day is gonna be elephant. Elephant, right? Join Discord, join Twitch, join YouTube, join TikTok, and join Twitter. All the best for your gacha proofs. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.